Howdy. Welcome to my run cast. Yesterday I got rained out. So I was in the middle of ranting and I got rained out. So I'm going to start this a little bit earlier just in case I run into rain a little bit farther down the road because we've been getting a lot of rain in Patsy. So I'm actually kind of like stressed because of this thing. That like I really just need to get off the internet, which I can't really do because it's my job. But like everyone knows, don't read the comments. Like the way people use the internet now is just to be very like divisive and argumentative and fucking like to say that something is a huge deal that's not a huge deal and all this stuff. And when I read it, I get really stressed. And I'm reading this in 2 languages across multiple countries, and it's just kind of like, it's just a lot for me. So the thing that's making me so stressed is this fight that happened on Channel 7 this past Sunday, and then the fallout from it. But to get into this, Kevin and I started watching this fight in round 2. So we missed the first round because we were watching Olympic boxing. There's this really good 54 kilo Thai woman fighting in the Olympics, and I think she's moved to the medal rounds already. Her name is Jit Hong, and she must have fought Muay Thai before, but like I don't know what her Muay Thai name, I don't know what her fighter name was as a Muay Thai fighter, but she's like 26. So she's like Sao Sing's age. She's like the age of a bunch of these women who are kind of like my class of fighters or whatever the thing is. So all of them know her. All of them are like cheering her on all the time, but I don't recognize her. And it is possible that she is, hi guys, it's possible that she's mostly boxing and didn't really have like a huge Muay Thai career before. When I was talking to Ananta Sak when we filmed with him for the Muay Thai library, and I was asking him about the difference between so many Thai fighters having success in boxing after their Muay Thai careers versus now you really don't see that anymore. And part of what he said the reason was, is that there are people who go directly into boxing now, whereas everyone came from Muay Thai before. And he's like, when they go directly into boxing, they start later, they don't train the same, they don't have the bones from having fought Muay Thai before. So people were very, very successful in boxing because they had all this experience before in Muay Thai. And so it is possible that Jit Hong didn't really fight Muay Thai before and only did boxing, but that is just so rare. Like, it's very, very rare for that to be the case. And I don't know what her fight name would be because when you fight in the Olympics, you use your real name. Like, you don't use your fight name in the Olympics because in the Olympics you have to use your real name. So this is actually why all of us know Somrak Kam Singh as opposed to his fighter name when he was a Muay Thai fighter. He was Pimarong Lek. So Thai people still call him Somrak because he's most famous for having won the gold medal in the Olympics in 1996. But they will still call him Pimarong Lek because that's what he was as a Muay Thai fighter, and that's what a lot of people knew him as before he became Somrak. Just FYI, so that you guys know these things. So anyway, we turn on this fight on Channel 7, get into it in the second round, and it's very heated. Like, it's going very, very hard already. And so it ends that round and it goes to the break, and Kevin and I are like, wow, I wonder what round this is. That was probably like round 3. I know both these fighters, and the fighter in the blue corner is French, he's not Thai. And I was like, those fighters, those brothers, those French brothers, they go hard all the time. So it's possible this is an earlier round than 3, and it's that hard already because of the way that they fight, and lo and behold, the next round starts and the 3 comes up. We're like, okay, this is round 3. So, he's fighting against a fighter who I remember, Kevin doesn't remember, but who is cornered by and coached by and kind of supported by Ajahn Surat from Deshrat Gym. So the thing that I remember about this kid is that, like, I was very surprised the first time we saw him. He's only 102 pounds. I was very surprised the first time we saw him that being from Deshrat, or at least being associated with Deshrat, he's not strong. Like, Deshrat produces really strong fighters, but what I remembered was despite him being like femur kind of thing, he is tough. Like, I remember he pulled out his last fight in the later rounds being very, very, very tough. And that must have been when he won the 102-pound Channel 7 title that I'm talking about, that I remembered, because he was defending it in this fight. So Kevin and I are watching this fight, and it's intense. Like, the French kid is just like hurling himself forward. He has good weapons coming in. He has like knees and punches and occasionally elbows, but he's like catching the Thai kid's kick and like throwing him on the floor maybe twice, maybe 3 times in that round. And he's not striking when he throws him on the ground, so it's like not clear how much this is scoring. Although from the Dejrat gym, if you listen to Ajahn Surat, you never ever ever lose your balance. Like, this is very bad in the eyes of Ajahn Surat, but in terms of what it is in an actual fight, nowadays the way that they score may be less of a big deal than it used to be. But basically, it's a small Thai being kind of chased around by a bigger, longer French kid who is really coming at him, just like turn, grab, like whatever. I have a hard time with these French brothers watching them because they have this like grimace on their faces the whole time they're fighting, and I really, maybe it's like a Jungian shadow thing. Like, it took me a long time to get the fight out of my face. And so fighters who are like the whole time that they're fighting, I kind of what do the kids say these days? It's cringe. Like, it's really hard for me to watch. So I kind of can't see everything that's going on when that's happening. I get really distracted by that expression on the face. And I don't like this. So I do have a like, I don't like this immediately as I'm watching. So I'm not completely neutral. And again, I'm not completely neutral because I love Ajahn Surat. So I always cheer for his fighters. But I also have eyes. And I also can see what scores and what doesn't. And it was incredibly close because of how aggressive this French kid was. And then when the Thai kid was backing up and defending himself, he was not running away. He was like backing up and scoring. And he was landing these open side kicks that you have to remember. And I think a lot of Westerners don't pay attention to this. When you catch a kick, that kick scores. That kick scored on you, which means when you handle a caught kick, you need to strike, you need to do something other than just throw someone, because that kick scored. And you're throwing someone doesn't necessarily negate that score. So they'll yell at you to block instead, they'll yell at you to like hook and then throw someone. This is why you see a lot of trips, stuff like this. Like, you want to do something to negate that point that you got when you caught that kick. That wasn't happening. Like, there were lots of kicks landing. The kick was landing every time this kid was grabbing the kick, and then he actually stopped being able to put him down. So this thing that was working for him, that was looking very dominant, the Thai stopped being thrown on the ground. I'm using French and Thai for shorthand because names are complicated and people don't ever remember them. But the Thai kid's name is Mon Praram, if you want to remember this. And the French kid is called Pet Sam. He's like one of 5 brothers, and they're all named Pet Nung, Pet Song, Pet Sam. So if you don't speak Thai, this means first diamond, second diamond, third diamond. He's the 3rd diamond. But this is why I'm saying French and Thai, because names are complicated. So as it's ending, like as we're coming to the end of round 5, they're both fighting incredibly hard at the end of round 4, and Blue, the French kid, actually backed up for a second. He'd been coming forward the whole time, and then suddenly he started going backwards, and he got the Thai kid to chase him, which was amazing. But then it reversed again, and he was chasing the Thai at the end of round 4. Round 5, they both think they have it in the bag, and so it's Channel 7, which is actually the worst culprit of this. They start dancing off 30 seconds into round 5, and nothing happens in round 5. They're dancing off the entire time, and for no reason, like he's not low on points or anything like this, the Thai comes forward, kicks a couple of times, scores a couple of times, and then backs up again. So the only scores that happened in round 5 were from the Thai side while they're both dancing off, and the Thai decided to come forward a little bit, which made me very nervous because I'm like, why is he doing that? Is that because of the odds? Is that because he doesn't want to dance off the entire round? I don't know. But Channel 7 is the worst for, like, people will dance off an entire round. They'll start dancing off in round 4, this kind of thing. So it's not surprising to have seen that. What was surprising is that the Thai came forward and scored a little bit and then went back to his dancing. So this was for the Channel 7 title at 102 pounds that the Thai guy already had. So he's defending it. And when they're going to the center of the ring, the Thai guy does not look super confident. And the French kid is starting to look more confident as they're waiting for the scores to be tabulated and this kind of thing. So this French kid starting to look more and more confident, like making faces at people who are off the ring is, the audience or whatever. People who came to see him. So I'm talking about like other French people who have come to watch this fight. They're wearing the shirt. There were lots of people in the Thai corner too, wearing the Thai kid's shirt. Like this was very two sides in the audience going for this. They read the scores, and it's very, very, very close. And the defending champ defends his belt by split decision. So it's 2-1 in terms of the judges who saw it the way that they saw it. Very, very close. I hate so much that every single fight now, even when they're razor thin, is a robbery. It's this like, oh my god, he's totally robbed. Like nobody's fucking robbed when it's really, really close. It means that it like went to the side that you didn't think was the winner in a very, very close fight. That's not a robbery. A robbery is when one side very, very, very clearly won, and there's no way it wouldn't be a unanimous decision, and it goes the wrong way. That's a robbery. So I hate the way people talk about it anyway. So this already gets me mad. French kid immediately starts crying in the ring. Understandable. I think he's like 14. And he feels like he had done enough. He was very confident. He came forward. It was a very, very hard fight. And he felt that he had won it. So he thinks he's about to become champion, which is like this really big deal. And then he's not. He starts crying. I might cry, honestly. Like that's fine. I will give absolute props to his sponsor. I don't know what his name is. I feel like his name has something to do with a banana in the way that I've read his name. But he calmed the kid down, took him down from the ring, was telling him to calm down. And when the crowd was starting to rabble, he was like, no, we don't do that. We're not going to storm the ring. We're not going to like make a big fuss about this. We're going to go talk to the officials and try to figure out what happened. Awesome. Like, this is professional. This is the way you should deal with a decision that you don't agree with, is calmly and not making a big scene about it and crying and making a big thing. This is calm your fighter down, calm yourselves down. Let's go have a thing. Backstage, Petsam, the French kid, his older brother Petnung was going to be the main event, fighting Prao from Pet Yindi. Not for a title, but main event. Because he didn't agree with the decision that his brother had gotten, he refused to fight the main event. I don't know whether this is actually this kid saying this. He's like 16 or 17, or whether it was his father who was saying this, but because the father doesn't speak Thai, the kid literally has to be the one who the words are coming out of his mouth, being like, I'm not going to fight this fight. This happens, Kevin will say something, and I have to actually literally say it because I'm the one who speaks Thai. So I don't know. They say, when they write about this, that Petnung refused to fight his fight because he didn't agree with the decision. I don't know who actually was saying that, but it wasn't his sponsor, because the sponsor of this gym is like a very cool guy. He was like, none of that. We're going to go backstage and we're going to talk to the officials and we're going to figure out what happened. Like, we're going to understand why we lost this fight. So I've watched video of backstage, and it's difficult because Petsam, the younger brother who lost his fight, is sitting there and he's translating for his dad, and his dad speaking to the Thai officials, and then he's got his manager and his sponsor behind him. So this can be difficult when you're like translating for multiple people, and they've lived in Thailand a long time. I'm sure his Thai is very, very close to fluent, but you're also a kid, so you're emotional at the time that this is happening, and like trying to understand and trying to translate between multiple languages can be really complicated. But I can understand why he would be a little bit frustrated by this experience of trying to figure out why he lost, because the answers that the officials were giving him were, the officials, the people who are in charge of making the score, so like the judges, saw it differently than you did. what did I do wrong, or what did they prefer in what the other guy was doing, so that you can make adjustments. So that you can make adjustments to what you fight with and what you do. And all they're saying to you is, the judges gave the other guy the win, that's why he won. This is very frustrating. But as I'm watching this, as a Westerner who's lived in Thailand for a really long time, part of my brain is going, this is very Thai. Like, it's very Thai to be like, the authorities said this. It's a little bit like a parent being like, because I said so. So instead of giving you an actual reason, they're like, because I said so. It feels a little bit like that. But there's also a very Thai thing to it and an authoritative thing to it that kind of makes sense, which is that when you tell someone like this point, which is not even necessarily how people score, like scoring is narrative. And so you're like, is this effective? Is this? And Thais don't necessarily speak in these really like kind of explanatory, abstract kinds of ways to be like, you were not effective in this way or this, that, or other thing. It's not really like how I have experienced Thai people explaining things or talking about things. It is a little bit like if you give someone a reason, they can argue with you. So like when I can't do something, Kevin's like, don't tell them why you can't do it, just say you can't do it. Because if you give someone a reason, they'll try to solve it for you. And then it's like, oh, well, you don't have a reason anymore because I solved it. So it's a little bit like that, where it's like, you can't argue this one point that I'm telling you and tell me that you still won because I didn't give you a particular point to argue. A little bit like that. But it's also just a way of how in Thailand authority speaks. So like, I don't know. I can understand why it's frustrating for this French kid to not get a straight answer about why he lost. But I can also understand why he was not given a straight answer about why he lost. Because I've never gotten straight answers on kind of like theoretical or kind of abstract questions that I've asked. It's just not the way that most people think here or talk or explain things. So for myself, when I've thought that I want to fight, I don't generally go ask people what is it that made me lose that fight, but I can usually see by watching my fight what it is that the judges were looking at. I'm like, they're rewarding this because that's what she's doing, kind of thing. So, you know, this is what I would do if I were in his shoes watching that fight, although I can understand that they were upset and felt like they had been wronged, or whatever the thing is. But then, after this fight, this whole thing, this is new, right? Like, it's not actually new in terms of like how many years it's been going on, but it's new in terms of like, the internet is not actually as old as we all act like it is. Like, it hasn't been around forever. It wasn't always the case that you would watch something and then immediately be able to go see what people are saying about it. And like, the way algorithms work, the way that people kind of amplify speech or glom on or pile on, I guess is the way they say it, every fucking thing gets amplified. Like, people are saying, and it's this big argument. And honestly, people don't care. Like, the people who are saying that this was a big robbery, they don't actually care. Like, they act like they're really mad. They're not, their lives are not in any way affected. So you get all these people who are like, oh, this is why we don't watch 5-round Muay Thai anymore. Like, this is so terrible. They don't know how to ref and judge and blah, blah, blah. And like, I understand that it depends on what platform, not even what platform, but like whose page I'm getting this news from. So like, if something happens in America and you go look at what people at Fox News are saying, you know what people are going to be saying at Fox News, as opposed to like if you go watch what people are saying at CNN. Like, these are going to be very, very different attitudes towards something that just happened. And where I was reading these comments, I am aware these are pages of these are Muay Thai journalists who became the commentators in Thai language for one championship. So Nui Dino and Mr. Pong are who host, like, on the, like, if you watch football or something, there are people who sit at a table and talk about it. They're that kind of host. They're not in the ring, they're not in the stadium, but they give commentary and they kind of host it. So all the people who follow them now are people who watch one. And people who watch one would absolutely think that that French kid won that fight. Like, they would think he won it going away, which is understandable, but it's not Muay Thai. It's not like 5-round Muay Thai. 5-round Muay Thai is very different from 3-round entertainment Muay Thai, which is very different from one championship. So Kevin was reading Twitter in English. So people in English were talking about this fight and this fallout and what was happening. And Kevin's telling me, this guy who he's reading hasn't seen any Thais who think that the French kid won. And I started laughing and I'm like, does he just not go to Nui Dino and Mr. Pong's page? Because that's like exclusively people who are arguing about this. But then if I go to other pages, like if I go to different accounts, I do see tons of people who are like, Red totally won that fight. I don't see why people are upset about this. And again, I don't see why people are so upset because it was so close. Like, as they were getting ready to announce the winner, like when the fight was over, Kevin immediately said, I think a draw would be appropriate for that fight. Like, I think a draw is a very reasonable outcome for that fight. And this is at the moment of the decision being read, this is his attitude. It's not like we were surprised by, if it had gone in either direction, we wouldn't have been super surprised. But I had actually thought it should go to the Thai kid because of the way that he fought, especially being undersized. And again, I fight undersized all the time, so I have a sympathy for this. It's the way I see things. It's the way I've seen how Thai fights are scored in Thailand, this kind of thing. So like, there's lots of reasons for why anyone sees anything any way that they do. But the way people get so upset about it, and I'm actually really upset, but I'm not upset about the fight. I'm upset about the way that people argue and make this big thing about it afterwards. And it just becomes this like rumor mill where people who haven't even seen the fight will jump in based on some like summary someone gave them of what happened. And if you summarize it, you're going to summarize it with a bias. And then people are going to be like, oh yeah, no, that's totally shit because of the way that you explained it. Or they're going to be like, oh yeah, no, that's totally right because of the way that you explained it. And I was actually kind of happy to see comments afterwards that were like kind of talking about the spirit of Muay Thai. They were actually celebrating the sponsor for having calmed this kid down and calmed everyone down. They're like, this is correct. This is like sportsmanship. And then there were some people who were criticizing Pet Nung, which again, to be fair, I don't know that this was him actually saying this for himself versus like him speaking for his dad being like, you're not going to go do this fight because we don't agree with this. But there were people saying they don't agree with the attitude that Pet Nung had, that he's like, I'm not going to go fight the main event because my brother lost his fight and I disagree with it. He ended up winning by KO in round 3 against Prow Prow. And he fights very, very similarly to his brother. It's just this forward onslaught, but you know, with more experience and skill. And the thing, as much as I'm like, I don't like this like grimace thing that these kids have, you can see how hard they train. Like, there is no question at all whatsoever how hard these kids train. And they're good, like they're skilled. It's just very like, unfinessed, I guess is the way to say it. But you know, they're young and this is kind of the direction that Muay Thai is going in anyway. But I guess part of the frustration for me too is that I am a forward fighter. Like, I've been here for 12 years now as a forward fighter who basically has been marked. I have heard Thai men talk about me like I've fought women from their gym, and then they will say about me, so these are the trainers of the girls I'm fighting, they're like, Sylvie's crazy. She comes forward all 5 rounds. Like, she doesn't do the narrative type of fighting. She's all just like going forward all the time. This was many, many years ago that this was said about me, but I still basically fight like this. This is my style. So for me to say I don't like the attitude or I don't like the way that people think that this should just win just by what it is, this comes from a lot of experience. And I'm not bragging. This is again like when Simone Biles is like, I'm not bragging, this is math. I have more experience in this kind of fighting than anyone else you know. As a Westerner in Thailand, fighting like this, I have a lot of experience, possibly the most experience of anyone you can find on the internet to talk about this. I don't think that if I fought the way that kid fought, I would win that fight. I have won fights where I come forward relentlessly and this kind of thing, but generally it's like wearing people down. And this Thai kid was not worn down. Like, he stayed up and with it. He was countering. He had very like intelligent answers to things. And so for me to be like, that's not it, that won't win you a fight, I have experience knowing that will not win you a fight. And so, I don't know, it feels like I feel like I'm just kind of getting overwhelmed by the frustration of Westerners coming and trying to influence the way things are done here to win, as opposed to trying to learn how things are done here in order to win. I find that very frustrating. Like, if this is so hard because Americans totally have this like built-in sense of superiority. Westerners in general have this sense of built-in like, I deserve things and kind of superiority and kinds of things. It's like, you're wrong in your own space. So if someone came to America and was like playing football wrong, and they're like, no, this is how you should play football, you'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, that's not how football's played. Like, it would be a joke. Whereas in Thailand, there's this kind of like insecurity about like giving people their way and kind of like bending to things and not making people mad. They promised Pet Sam, the younger brother who lost, they promised him another shot at the title next month against a different opponent. And the reason it's against a different opponent is because this Thai kid who just won, he's gonna go ordain. Which is something that almost all Thai men do at some point in their life, the exception being Muslim men in Thailand, but like at least one time in any Buddhist Thai man's life, which is the majority of Thai men, they will ordain. And so basically he's not going to be available at the time that the promoter wants him to defend his belt, so he'll just vacate it and this kid and someone else will fight for it. So basically the person that they've suggested, and all of this is, just happened, so who knows how it will change in the time that it gets closer to it actually happening. The person they've suggested is actually another French kid named Alex, who used to be at a gym down in the south, but now he's at Sing Ma Wen, which is Nam Sok Noi's gym. He doesn't own it, he's just there. So it will be two Frenchmen fighting for the Channel 7 102-pound title, which means a Frenchman will have that 102-pound title next month. And this is crazy to me. Like, this is kind of incredible. Channel 7 didn't allow Westerners to fight for them for a really long time. They allowed it way back in the day. Sean Wright fought for them. And then they cut it off and they were like, no more Farang for many, many, many years. And then actually the first fight allowing a Farang back on was one of these kids. I think it was Ted Nung. Was the first Farang they let back on Channel 7. So there's clearly sway with the gym that these kids fight out of. They're clearly invited to be on this program. Westerners now make up a lot of the fights that happen on TV in Thailand, because most stuff that's on TV is like entertainment Muay Thai. This dog doesn't like my stick. Honey, you don't like my selfie stick? Come here. Come on. Come on. I won't bother you with the stick. You don't gotta worry about that stick. And so there's all these things that like require little asterisks whenever you're talking about them, which is that like Westerners fight at Lumpini and Rajadamnern all the time now, all the time, whereas it used to be kind of like, wow, that's amazing that as a Westerner you fought at Lumpini or Rajadamnern. I'm talking a long time ago. I'm talking about like John Wayne Parr and Skarbowski and stuff like this. And now so many Westerners fight every day at Lumpini and Rajadamnern, but they're entertainment Muay Thai shows. These are not like standard Muay Thai shows that have Westerners on them. In fact, the standard 5-round Muay Thai shows have actually pushed Westerners out more than there were before. So you don't see them as often at Omnoy or Channel 7. You don't see them on Pet Indie shows. You definitely don't see them on these non-televised ones that are kind of really pulling for the like traditional exhibit of Muay Thai. There's stuff happening, like it's very weird. And I've just been like, for a couple of days, really frustrated and kind of irritated by the explosion of this whole thing and like how people are talking about it and how people are getting upset about it. And I'm not upset about the fight. To be fair, the fighter that I thought won. If they'd given it to the French kid, I would not have been like shocked and yelling about it. It was an incredibly close fight. I would have probably been talking about it as a like, well, this is just the way that Muay Thai is going. People love like, you know, less skilled aggression coming forward kind of thing. And I would be saying like, I haven't been able to win fights like that, or when I don't win fights like that, I understand why, and things are changing. But I wouldn't be like, oh my God, what a robbery, I'm gonna stop watching this show, blah, 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 if the fighter that I didn't think won that fight won. So I don't know. That's me doing a whole big long rant that I didn't get to do yesterday because it rained. So that's what I'm thinking about. And yeah, I'm trying to be more like, I don't care about it. Like maybe I just need to stop going to look at what people are saying about fights after they happen. Because honestly, I'm never happy. I'm never like, yay. Sometimes I go read the comments for Kevin. Like we're both interested in what people are saying about a fight because we're like, why did it go that way? Like we'll think that someone's in the lead and then it will suddenly switch. And we're like, oh shit, like how did that happen? Because we don't actually look at the odds. Like we don't watch gambling sites, we watch the actual broadcast. When you watch the gambling sites and they show the odds all the time, you can see what people are looking at or why they suddenly start believing in someone else. And this fight again is such an interesting example in this atmosphere of everyone being like, I'm not gonna watch 5-round Muay Thai anymore because they don't judge right. Or 3-round Muay Thai is great because they just slug each other. Is that when you look at the Nui Dino and Mr. Pong comments of people who are like, that was obviously a robbery, the French kid should have won. This is an audience that is used to watching bigger Westerners fight smaller Thais and just like slam them for 3 rounds, because that's what one is size disparity with a weight advantage given to Westerners in this kind of like onslaught kind of thing. So they're used to seeing this. So when they see it, so that like, oh, we actually like that the smaller fighter is able to use certain skills and certain aggression and moments of bursts in order to control something, they don't want to see that. They just want to see the like kind of onslaught. And then it's also a thing where people are always like, 5-round Muay Thai is messed up because of gambling. People only ever go with the gamblers. The reason people are really, really upset about this fight is it didn't go with the gamblers. So the gamblers gave the odds of 100 to 1. I don't know where they saw this, because when people give those odds, they're giving them from a website, and I don't know what website they're talking about. But people were saying that it was 100 to 1 odds in favor of the French kid at the end of round 4 before the dance-off. I don't know what happens with the dance-off. They just stop betting at that point. So the judges went absolutely against what the gamblers were saying. And this flies in the face of the like, oh, judges only ever go with the gamblers. Gamblers control all of Muay Thai, blah, 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 blah. You're bitching now about them not going with what the gamblers said and that they're completely wrong and that the gamblers were right. So, I don't know. I'm getting mad again. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop reading the comments. And now you guys have heard my long diatribe process in the kinds of things that make me mad. And yeah, I'll post a link to this fight in the comments. You guys can watch it, see what you think. But I thought that in a razor thin fight, I thought that Red took it where it needed to go. I thought he did the right things in order to win that fight. I think that he won that fight based on kind of traditional scoring rules. And I think that with more experience and more training, they clearly train very hard and very well. I think that this French kid could win that fight for 4 or 5 months from now. I think he could solve some of the things that were making it so that he was not quite getting there, where he was kind of like not quite impressing or making mention, as Joe likes to say, make some mention. He was not getting that kind of like dominance that I think he thought he was getting, or that his fans thought he was getting. And I think that those things are solvable. So, I don't know. That's that. Thanks, guys.